Hi everyone, John Cottrell here of MBODY Yoga, and welcome to Soft Flow Yoga. Our class today is called This is Your Spine. Yes, this is your spine. So this class is really going to focus on our spine, some lengthening of your spine, a little bit of twisting of your spine, and actually doing a pose that's called Spinal Balance. We'll get to that in a moment. So first, our props. Our props for our practice today. You may want to have something soft that you can sit on, kneel on, even lie on. So that can be a blanket, a towel, something that you can put over your existing yoga mat. It can even be another yoga mat. Maybe a couple of yoga blocks or a couple of hardbound books that will work very nicely as well. And if you like, just for an option, a big pillow, cushion, or a yoga bolster like this. That can come in handy as well. So first, let's begin in a seated position, which really begins the process of lengthening the spine. We'll do a couple of postures that will really highlight the lengthening of the spine. And I'll talk about why that might be a good thing for you. So as you sit up nice and tall, you can go ahead and close your eyes if you'd like, or even keep your eyes opened as we get into some breathing. You might start with a few deep breaths, slow, deep, intentional breaths. As you inhale, just feel the breath rising upward to fill your lungs. And as you exhale, you want to connect to your spine and your center body by drawing your navel in towards your spine. Just a light pulling sensation. It's a light contraction of your abdominal muscles. And so what this action does is helps to support your center, and it supports your spine. So when we inhale, I always give you the instruction of sit up nice and tall, feel the lengthening of your spine. And then when we exhale, we create the abdominal lock, engage the abdominal muscles. This is spine work, which really allows us to sit comfortably. Let's just take a few more moments in silence and in stillness, and I'll get to that a little bit more in a moment. So first, just continue with breath, feeling the lifting and lengthening of the spine, and drawing inward towards your spine. Good. Keeping this connection, we'll add a very simple movement. When you're ready, inhale and extend your arms out and up, reaching into the air. And as you exhale, extend your arms out across the room and back down by your side. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, reaching out with good energy and effort, extending all the way out, reaching towards the ceiling. Exhale all the way back down. Let's return to what I was saying earlier about the spine and when we breathe. And when we move, as we inhale, we're reaching up into the air, feeling the air rising up to fill the lungs. And when we exhale, we bring the arms back down. Go ahead and continue to move and breathe at your own pace as I'm describing this. Again, the inhale helping you to not only feel the breath rising, but to encourage you to sit up a little taller. That's the lengthening of the spine. And so then when we exhale, so that we don't collapse back down into our spine and compact it, we want to maintain that length and all the space that we're creating along the spinal column. We engage the abdominal lock. We engage down here, nice and low, pulling in, breathing out, contracting the muscles. That way we feel more supported so that we're able to stay nice and tall in our seats, maintaining the length in the spine. Same thing when we reach the arms up into the air, we're growing tall. We're keeping that lifting sensation, even though we're bringing our arms back down, but we're engaging our core. Let's do one more breath together, reaching all the way up with the intention of lengthening the spine, keeping that spinal length as we exhale and bring arms back down. Good. Just pause for a moment. I hope that makes some sense. So there is intention around the movement of the arms up and down, the movement of breath up and maintaining that uplifting sensation and the connection to our center. Another thing that we typically do in our soft flow practice is a mild back bend here. And so that, of course, engages our spine. We're just leaning back. So we're going to start with the hands behind you, just to support yourself. We also tip the chin up slightly, feel the shoulders roll back, and just feel this nice opening up through the heart space. And think about what your spine might be doing. It's kind of doing this little bit of a lift and a curve at the top. So as we inhale, we press into the floor. Inhaling, feeling the breath rising. Fill up the lungs like we did earlier. Then exhale, drawing the navel in towards spine. Now we've talked about the abdominal lock, drawing the belly button in towards the spine to create that support. But in a back bend, even something like this, we're rolling the shoulders back, squeezing the shoulder blades together to create more support, now in the upper back region. So we can stay in this position. Stay lifted, lengthened, and slightly arched back in this condition. We'll be doing a similar thing when we do our our lying down back bend, our bridge pose that we typically do. So again, an awareness of the spine. Inhale, feel the breath rise, fill up your lungs. Exhaling, draw belly button in and squeeze shoulder blades together to create that support since we are in this mild seated back bend. One more breath. And then lower your chin. And bring the arms forward. And just relax. So we're just maintaining or returning now to a more lengthened spine or the natural curve of the spine as you sit up nice and tall. Kind of the chemistry, I guess you can say, or the biology of our spinal column. Here in the neck area, this is the cervical spine, So we're right through that area. So we want to be mindful of nodding down, lifting the head up, and how that affects the spine here. We have the lumbar spine, which is down in the low back. And I know for me, that's an area of the body that can get particularly pinched, and we might even have soreness, or when we have backache, sometimes it's in our low backs. And so when we work with engaging the abdominal lock, we're also helping to support that low back. And all that lifting and lengthening we do also creates a lot of nice space in the low back. And of course, we have this central part of the back as well, where we have that natural curve or an S curve in the back area. And so when we squeeze the shoulder blades together, we're engaging that part, help supporting the muscles of that part of our spines. Another way that we affect that part is when we do a forward fold. So let's do that now. So if your legs are crossed, let's uncross the legs. Bring the soles of your feet together. Maybe just scoop up your toes or hold onto your feet with your hands. When you inhale and just sit up nice and tall. Exhale, start to hinge forward just a little bit, leading with your heart and chin so the spine is still relatively straight in this position. We're going to go a little bit further by folding and letting the back round. Here we go. First an inhale. Exhale, draw belly button in, hinging a little bit more, but then lowering the chin just a little bit. So that's going to affect the cervical spine. Folding a little bit more, we create that natural curve and roundedness in the back, which is going to affect kind of the upper mid-back area and also that low back area. And so just observe, be a witness to the sensations that in this position along the spinal column, and certainly the muscles that support the spine. So here maybe a natural stretch through the back muscles to create a little bit more flexibility and mobility and, of course, support of the spinal column. Let's take 2 more breaths. And of course, in cobbler's pose, we're getting a nice hip release, nice hip stretch. Now, before we rise back up, let's re-lengthen the spine. Start by lifting the chin slightly so you're maybe looking out in front of you. You're starting to re-extend already. Maybe with a breath in and using your hands, pressing into the floor to help lift yourself up so we're back to our natural posture. Holding for a moment. And then we're just going to maneuver ourselves around to our hands and knees. This is where you might want some padding for your hands and knees, since we'll be here for a moment. Again, just coming to a pose that we typically do in soft flow, but let's pay closer attention to how this affects the spine. Cat and cow. So it's a cow pose as we inhale, just tipping the chin up, sending the heart forward, creating an arched back, like a back bend. Exhaling, tucking the pelvis under, navel pulling up towards spine. Here's that natural roundedness of the spine, and then chin to chest. And then continue, starting if you can with the back end of the body. The pelvis tips back, creating an anterior tilt. The belly kind of drops. There's our back bend, heart opens, look forward, or that looking up sensation, getting in the neck area. Exhale, tug the pelvis under, the posterior tilt of the pelvis, belly button pulling up towards spine, rounded spine, chin to chest. So just notice how this affects all areas, the major sections of the spine. I love doing this movement, and this is a pose you might want to incorporate in just daily stretches or exercises that you do, even if you don't do a full yoga practice. Cat and cow really helps that mobility of the spine. I call it a nice undulation through the spine to create that mobility and flexibility. And of course, since it affects the low back and the lumbar area, that rocking of the pelvis. So finish the breath that you're on and take 2 more. When you're complete, just pause here in a tabletop type position, holding for a moment, letting the neck stabilize, your spine stabilize. And then crawling off the pad, setting it to the side. Let's move into our downward facing dog. Because I think moving into downward facing dog is a posture that, since we do it all the time, it certainly has an effect on the spine. It's a way of lengthening the spine. Let's step the hands forward a little bit, spreading out your fingers to create a nice strong foundation. Kind of lean or press into the hands so your palms are flat on the mat and your arms feel straight and strong. Tuck your toes under. We'll do one more cat and cow, starting with cow. It's an inhale here. Exhale, round it all out. Hold cat pose. Make sure your toes are tucked so you can lift your knees and then your hips into the air, and that should straighten the spine, especially if you just adjust the feet a little bit so that you feel a little bit more comfortable and supported in the pose. I'm also taking my hands a little wider, but one of the main things you want to do here is keep the knees slightly bent. That way you have some mobility in the hips. Hips can then rise a little higher while the hands press more into the floor and your spine gets longer. Take a moment to relax your head here too. So a nice long spine. And of course, another spinal lengthening condition will be when we're standing. So we'll get there in a moment. So first, let's step the feet forward, maybe towards the center of the mat until the feet are flat on the mat. Just slide your fingertips towards your toes. We're in a forward fold, so here you might have a natural curve of the spine. Inhale, slide your hands up to your shins or knees. Hold here and re-extend the spine as best as you can. Now you might need to really engage your core here. That abdominal lock, drawing the belly button up towards spine to create some of that support. But you also want to feel as if your hips or tailbone is moving directly back to the wall behind you, while the top of your head, your crown, is moving forward. That's the lengthening, that's the extension. And of course, you have the support of your strong legs, soft knees here. Let's finish standing all the way, shifting the weight into the heels so your toes feel light. You can easily tap them perhaps. Bend your knees, lower your hips while you lift your chest. Maybe take your arms out to the side, then drive your heels into the floor to help you stand up nice and tall. Let's take the arms up into the air, reach, and we reach a little bit more to help that re-lengthening of the spine. And then exhale, bring your arms down to your side. So whenever we bring our arms all the way up into the air, think of that not only as an arm extension, but it's also a spinal extension, okay? So let's go do that a couple more times. Just inhale, arms all the way up. Exhale, arms down. Now with that intentionality, as you inhale and take the arms out and up, also feel like your spine is getting longer. Exhale, arms back down. One more time. Inhale, reach out and up. Exhale, back down. So why are we creating space in the spine? Again, to have greater mobility, more functionality, flexibility, and you just feel so much better. The health of the spine, before there was modern medicine, the health of the spine really dictated the health of the rest of the body. So we can even incorporate that into today's realm. Thinking about if I have a healthy spine and I feel good and I move pretty well, it's probably going to influence in a positive way the rest of your body. All right, we're going to make our way back down to the ground. Starting in mountain pose right here. So feel that spinal extension, feel tall. Even imagine a string attached to the top of your head and being drawn upward. Then, of course, we inhale, take the arms up, continue to feel that lengthening of the spine. Exhale, folding forward, spreading your wings, bend your knees as you make your way down towards toes, and you'll feel that natural curvature of the spine, releasing your head, neck, and shoulders. Inhale, slide your hands up to your shins or knees. Let's re-extend the spine, only rising up halfway. Exhale, fold, make your way down towards toes. Low enough so you can place your hands back down onto your mat, and then walk or step the feet back into plank pose. So another opportunity to extend the spine as we feel strength throughout the body. We're going to breathe in right here. And exhale, let's bring the knees to the floor. Sit back briefly in hero pose. We're going to go into our back bend. Okay, so we're going to need our blocks. So go ahead and have the blocks nearby. We're going to sit off to the side, swing the legs around to the front. You'll want to sit in the center of your mat. And go ahead and roll down onto your back. You might even draw your knees into chest. Now, as you draw the knees in, there's a couple things you can do that affect the spine. One is just notice what parts of your back body are making contact with the floor, with the knees bent and drawn in. Because there might be parts that are not making contact with the floor. If we lift the head and chest, we're creating a rounded sensation. So a curvature in the spine. So just notice how that feels throughout your back. Let's lie back down, set the head down, and see if you can follow me with this. Just take the legs a little wider here. And to the best of your ability, make contact with the floor, with your whole back body, or as much as the back body as you can. Now, it may not involve the neck, because there might be a natural curve there. Okay, but notice the rest of your back. What's making contact with the floor? All right, just an awareness of your spine. That's all this is. All right, let's bring the knees together, sit the feet onto the floor. We're going to move into our supported bridge pose. We need our blocks or our books, whatever you're using there. Take a breath in, fill up your lungs. Exhale, engage your belly by breathing out through the mouth. Using that energy to lift your hips, sliding your books or blocks underneath you and taking your seat. Adjusting your feet so they're flat on the ground. And we're going to add one more thing here by I'm just kind of lifting my left side so I can get my left shoulder a little bit more underneath me and doing the same on the other side. Okay? So remember, when we were seated with our hands behind us and we did that seated back bend, I had you squeeze your shoulder blades together. So we're kind of mimicking that here. By getting our shoulders a little bit more underneath us, you might be able to engage your upper back a little bit. Maybe not as much as that seated posture, but see what you can do here. We are in a slight back bend, a supported back bend, bridge pose. So notice that curvature in the spine. See if you can imagine what shape your spine is in while you're in this pose. Three more breaths. Nice opening of the heart space, opens the whole front body. Another way of manipulating the spine in this low bridge type position. When you're finished, press feet into the floor, lifting hips so you can move your blocks out from underneath you, and then just carefully make your way back down to the floor. You want also, let's extend the legs out front. We're going to extend the arms behind you. That should get the shoulders out from underneath you as well. This should mimic what we did standing. Reaching in these opposite directions through the feet, through the hands, but should mimic what we're doing standing when our arms are in the air, lengthening through the spine. And so we're doing the same thing here, making more space. We're getting close to moving into our featured pose, which is that spinal balance. But first, let's bring the knees in once again. Catch them in your hands. Another light rounding of the spine. Maybe rolling to one side, then pressing yourself up to seated. Holding here for a moment. And then moving to our hands and knees. Now feel free to bring in your pad once again. Something for your knees and then also your hands, so like this. So this is going to be our setup for our spinal balance. Listen carefully and follow me. First, we'll move into our cat-cow like we did earlier. Inhale, tip the chin up, arch the back. Exhale, round it out. You'll be in cat pose. So hold this position and keep breathing. Maintain this curvature in the spine. Broadening of the upper back. Belly button pulling up towards spine. So notice what this feels like and even imagine the shape of your spine. Here comes the spinal balance, and it involves our legs and arms. I'm leaning a little bit into my right hand and right knee so I can extend my left leg back, keeping the toes on the floor. Just a nice extension. And then I'm going to lean a little bit now into my left hand so I can free up the right hand and extend the arm forward. Essentially, this is spinal balance. Reaching with the right hand, reaching back through the left heel or left foot, and the spine has gotten a little longer. Now my chin was dropped down, so I'm just lifting the chin a little bit so my neck is a little bit more neutral and natural. Now you can probably feel why we might call this spinal balance, because you are balancing here. You can even lift this back foot, not very high. You don't have to lift it high, but you're also extending, so making sure we're affecting the spine in a good way. Let's bring the hands and knees back down to the floor. Tuck your toes here because we're going to sit back a little bit, what I call half hero, so we can get off of the hands just to get a counter stretch perhaps in the left hand, since that's the one that was getting the most pressure on the mat here. All right, so spinal balance, so it's opposite limbs moving in opposite directions, maintaining balance in the body while extending the spine. So that's our featured pose. Let's do the other side. So back out onto hands and knees. Let's do a cat and cow, starting with cow. That's our inhale. Exhale, round. Hold, but keep breathing. Hold the posture. Keep breathing. Filling up your lungs, but maybe even feeling like you're filling up the backside of your lungs here as the back broadens. Exhaling, continue to pull the belly button up towards your spine. Now let's lean into the left hand and left knee. Extend the right leg back, keeping the toes on the floor. Just like that. Lean now into the right hand so I can free up the left hand and extend the arm forward. There's our spinal balance. You're welcome to keep the back right foot on the floor or even lift it just temporarily so you can really experience the balance. Keeping the foot on the floor is just a little bit added support. Remember to lift the chin a little bit to lengthen through the neck. Inhale to feel longer. Exhale, still pulling belly button up towards spine to create the support. Let's go ahead and come back down to the earth. Left hand, right knee, tuck your toes, and sit back to our half hero. And you maybe want to circle the wrists again. So that's our spinal balance. Let's get into a twist. And the main twist that we're going to do is going to be on the floor because we're going to start to wrap up our practice. So let's move our blanket out of the way. Swing the legs around to the front. Sitting in the center of your mat, go ahead and roll down onto your back. Go ahead and draw the knees in towards your body. Just for a moment, we're going to return to this in a second. I'm going to have you re-extend. So extend the legs out front, arms behind you, reach, hold, keep breathing. Imagine or even experience space created along the entire spinal column as you stretch in these opposite directions, especially if you have any tightness in any part of your spine or back. Alrighty, now we'll re-hug the knees in, not too tightly. Here is fine, and then our spinal twist. So we're going to take both knees over to the left side, right arm over to the right side, which creates a natural twist or rotation in the spine. As we hold here, see if you can be aware of where you feel this. Where do you have sensation? It might be in different parts of the body. It might be your hips, might be your shoulders, but see if you can notice where you feel this in your back. And imagine where in the spine it's twisting. It could feel like it's coming from your low back. It might be a little higher. Awareness of your spine, how this feels. Let's take 2 more breaths. Carefully return to center. We'll start by hugging the knees in gently, but let's re-extend the spine by extending the legs out front, arms behind you again. Lengthen. Just in case things may have tightened up a little bit in that twist, I just want to reopen, lengthen. So we're ready for the other side. Go ahead and draw the knees in. And we'll take the knees over to the right side as the left arm extends over to the left. We'll hold here. Deep breaths. As you're breathing, paying attention to sensation. And this could be anywhere in the body. Could even be in your knees or feet, shoulders, hips. But paying attention also to your back, because you might be getting some kind of stretch feeling, and that's in our muscles when we stretch. But then see if you can imagine what part of your spine is actually rotating. Let's take 3 more breaths here. When you're complete, slowly return to center. Maybe one more hug of the knees in. You might even lift your head and chest up towards the knees so there's that rounded sensation. And then we're going to release. Maybe setting the feet onto the floor. Pause here as everything begins to relax. And then extend the legs out front. Arms can just rest down by your side. We've made it to the end of our practice. Just let the feet fall open. Legs will open up naturally and relax. That should affect your hips, your low back. Feel how your whole back body, right up the spinal column, is relaxing. And even paying attention to what parts of your back are making contact with the floor like we did earlier. Slow, steady breaths. Feel free to stay here as long as you'd like. Even as I end the practice, certainly welcome to stay right where you are, especially if you feel quite relaxed. Maybe you were able to release tension from your body, in particular perhaps from your spine. And so you just want to rest in this relaxation, feeling a little bit more comfortable in your own body. And when it is time to move, take your time. Move as slowly as you can. But we'll start with breath. So maybe just 3 breaths. And these breaths helping to generate movement. And again, moving very slowly. You might bend your knees, coming up to the feet, using the feet to help press as you roll to one side. And then pressing into the floor with your hands, lifting your body. Coming to a comfortable seated position, bring in your pillow or blanket, and just returning to the place where we began. Maybe with legs crossed, sitting on your pad with a lengthened spine. Notice all the space you've created along your spine. Let's do one more movement together. Inhale, extend the arms all the way up, feeling the spine get longer and taller. As you exhale, bring your palms together and down to your heart. And take one more breath. And as we come to the close of our practice together, we bow, saying, Namaste. Thank you so much for watching and participating in this yoga lesson. To help us with the channel so we can continue to bring you more content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's really appreciated. Namaste.